Honorable Musa, you done? Honorable Makato? Honorable Mthethwa? Is there any other honorable member that would like to? Honorable Khabo, yeah, you have to come back.
Thank you, Chair.
Let me give Honorable Khabo, I'll come back. You said you fine, Honorable member.
Chair, you've got an agenda today.
Proceed, Honorable Mthethwa.
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Khabo, why did you come back? Chair, Chair, I want to close my statement so that I'm not misunderstood or misinterpreted on what I have said to the minister. Chair, we've said ANC is accused of cadre deployment. Nobody has ever said that we are insulting them when we say so. It is one of the things that we need to guard against because corruption and influence, there's a thin line between that. I said it the other day. There's a tendency and a pattern that we can follow in how these boards are dissolved, hurriedly dissolved. And you see, when you look at the members in this particular board, you have Saudi Hamid, chairperson of NFVF, also serves on Boxing SA. Ntokozi Sekhape Tebe, deputy chair and HR of NFVF, also sits on Boxing SA. You have Vincent Blenis, CEO of NFVF, also who sits in the Boxing SA. Sydney James. So there's a pattern, a particular pattern, and I want the minister to come back and correct me if what I am suspecting is wrong.
The deputy minister is here.
No, the deputy minister is not the one who appointed the CEO. The minister seconded the first CEO, Chikwatamba. Mandisa Chikwatamba. And then seconded Mr. Lebogang Mogwera, 1st September to 31 October. But when he started acting, it was in December, 1st of December, but his contract was backdated to November, 1st November. And then there was another appointment, Miss Abigail Tular, on the 6th of January. Whilst the suspended CEO, Ms. Manyinje, Thobela Manyinje, was on suspension without any charges, by the way. So there has been a number of violations of acts, section 13, as I said, 3 to 4 of NFVF Act, invalid dissolution of the council before its time, Public Finance Management Act, which allows, which allocates the responsibility of accountability to the board and to the CEO, but this board has said that it has gone without a CEO and a board at a particular time. Who was taking accountability during that moment of vacuum? We're not hearing such reports in this meeting. It's like we are told, no, let bygones be bygones, move forward. Don't think what has happened. Don't challenge what has happened. And I want to say this with all the respect, with all due respect. I'm saying there's a pattern. You have NAC that has an HR person who has been suspended, was suspended on the 19th of February 2024. Charges given 28th November 2024. With a salary of about 43,567 a month in full payment during this suspension with no charges. which amounts to about 914,000 a year. And this is just after the deductions. The actual salary is 83,137, which amounts to 1.745,889 per annum. Okay.
And Mthethwa, can you keep your word? I want a response. Who was in charge?
No, I'm
Because-
coming to the questions, Chairperson, that are relevant to the board. I just want to close the issue because I made this statement too. I want the minister to go and charge me. Otherwise, I will go and report him to the ethics, because this is contravention of the law. And he has taken oath of office. He can't come here and be emotional and tell me that I am accusing him, falsely accusing him, when I am quoting the laws that he couldn't quote here. But he says that he applied the law. So it can't be. Coming to the board, let me come to the people who are here to respond and say 75% for projects and 25% for ops. That's how your budget is allocated. You saying that CFO unqualified with findings is nothing much, because you are counting numbers that you have reduced it from 19 to 11. But material, what is the meaning of material findings? Irregular expenditure, is that nothing to you? Does that amount to nothing when you say irregular? Irregular cannot be something that you committed unwittingly. You cannot commit such an act unwittingly. You must have done that decisively. But you are not giving us these. We want to hear what is it that you are going to do so that you don't spend, you don't have any regular expenditures the next time. We want to see the itemized budget, that when you've divided the provinces. I'll come to the provinces. The department says, let me continue with, you will answer that question. What do you mean when you say you are trivializing the findings? That's my concern. If you are approaching it with that mentality of trivializing these findings, it means that you might come back and do the same thing, because you are not telling us what is it that you are going to do. 2 national newspapers department. What are those newspapers, and what was the rationale for the 2 newspapers? Are they newspapers that cover nationally, demographically, in terms of the market audience? It's newspapers that are read by Afrikaners, English people, speaking people, and Kasi people? Because as far as I know, that the media fraternity is divided into certain market targets that it has. So I want to know what is the rationale behind that. Which are the newspapers, and what are the rationale for those newspapers? Accounting in terms of PFMA is a fiduciary duty of the board. It is also a fiduciary duty of the accounting executive, which is the CEO. The period when you didn't have a CEO and the board, who was taking the responsibility, and have you reported on those finances? Department, have you received a report on those finances, financial activities? You say that part of your budget it goes to salaries and compensation of staff members, which is about 40%, and 37% goes to salaries, I suppose, operations, and then 3 million goes to, I suppose, your rental and that, or office space. One of the things that you are not telling us, and I know that it affected you, It is the issue of the merger that was proposed by the minister, the former minister, which stalled a number of other processes. And I wish the minister was here, because he then decided to scrap that process. But that process speaks exactly to the issue of more money going to salaries than it goes to the projects. You have a very disturbing picture where you have Gauteng Province, Western Cape, and KZN. I suppose they get funding for content development. The actual mandate of NFVF. And then you say Eastern Cape, Limpopo, Northwest, they're developing group of provinces. I don't know what do you do for them in their process of developing. And then you say Free State, Mpumalanga, and Northern Cape festivals. That's where the money is looted, in festivals. We are here, we're supposed to make an impact in changing people's lives. You speak of success stories. I want to ask you, the best documentary that you spoke about, how much did you support it with? How much was it spent on it? And then compare it, if you have ever supported an international documentary or movie, how much was it that was put on that international documentary or movie? The reason for the amalgamation of funding institution department, Deputy Minister, the rationale behind that, it was that you reduce the salaries, okay? Then you create a one-stop shop with a pool of funds divided in terms of the active participation of those sectors and provinces. Because you can't say you are allocating NFVF to do film, and when Limpopo doesn't have a film studio, doesn't have anyone who's doing film, that funding will be skewed. But when you have a one-stop shop of funding, you then say, how much does the film in South Africa occupy? If they're occupying 30%, you say, therefore, we are going to allocate 30% to the film industry. You occupy music, it occupies this, or performing arts, it occupies this, you allocate that percentage. So that we are able to see whether you are, it's not our responsibility to develop the provinces, but it is the responsibility of the funding institution to go to every individual in this country who has a legitimate need to create, to that creative talent, who wants to develop his movie wherever it is. We can't be biased. We have movies that are dominated by Zulu, English, and certain. We have other provinces that can't find expression in what we are. Our SABC is dominated by certain 3 or 4 languages. Yet we as the department, we have the language institution that we must say, we must fund and say, please make sure that all languages are equal before our people. So I don't want to educate people forever. I can't be talking like this as if I'm here to educate people. But I'm saying it is a concern when we see such things happening. The minister speaks about Mabaham, which is very selective. He's opening up for colored people to occupy positions in this. And there's nothing wrong with him standing up for his people. But he needs to understand the context of post-1994. You can't do that at the expense of the very same people, others who were marginalized. You are doing exactly what apartheid did, providing privileges for one race against the other. It must be all-inclusive, which shouldn't reverse the gains of what we attained post-1994. So I'm saying this, I hope you are taking notes, Deputy Minister, to deal with these issues holistically, because honestly, it is quite disheartening, and I'm constantly using this term disheartening, because this is what we've been faced with for the past 30 years. We have movies from abroad that are shot here and DTI is giving them funding, but our own don't get funding. And we have American artists, actors who come and act in our movies, be Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela, when our own are sitting at home and saying, where are the opportunities? I'm done, Chairperson. Thank you for giving me the...
Yeah, I just want to say there was quite a number of questions within what Honorable Mthethwa has asked. And what is very evident is that the entity does not have any other way or means to pertaining to grants. And also the fact, if you read through these documents, the instability in the organization. If you can just take us through the impact it has. You know, for starters, the way you are presented in this particular meeting with such a large entourage, you know, it does not only speak of contempt, but it also speaks on a lot of problems that you have within your organization. So we would like to hear on the impact it have on the processes of this organization called NFVF.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. No, I think the one obvious one would obviously be the staff morale, because if you do not have stability at the top, especially to provide leadership and guidance, it disrupts not only the operations but also the staff morale. And when we arrived, we landed in an institution where the staff morale was very low. That's an honest fact. And when we thought we had rushed to stabilize the process, unfortunately that CEO did not stay for the full duration of that contract. That would have been extended to him of 5 years. Forcing us then, Chair, to, as I said, to go back to the drawing boards. And thankfully that process has culminated in us interviewing next week Tuesday the 4 shortlisted candidates, and we are hopeful that we'll get our person from the 4, and prayerfully they would stay this time, so that the much needed staff morale and the stability to the institution is ensured. But also in terms of the preparations for Parliament, it helps when you've got a leader operation that can assist with that. The other question that the honourable members asked is a question about who took accountability during the time when the CE wasn't there. I'm aware, Chair, that at no stage was there ever a vacuum in terms of leadership, even though you didn't have a permanent appointee at the level of the CEO. You always had acting CEs, either the HODs, there would be acting CEs, and they were accountable to the board. The one time that I'm aware of, and the DG is here, and Mr. Nsanyane can correct me, was when that board had been dissolved. I'm not sure what the accountability exercise was there, because it was before our time. But certainly during our time, there's never been a situation where there was really no acting CE, even on the interim. Like Honorable Nyambose was saying earlier, we've been through so many acting CEs in the intervening period, simply precisely because in terms of the PFMA, you cannot not have an acting CE to sign off on the things. Thank you, Chair.
Who's acting now?
Chair, the last secondment of Dr. Machaba came to the 3 months that she had been seconded to us came to an end as of 2 days ago. We quickly had an urgent meeting as the board, and we have appointed an acting CE internally. But the reason why we have not, because the paperwork hasn't been done, obviously we were airborne when we did that meeting. But there is an acting CE who's going to start on Monday. We just need to finalize the paperwork and also to inform them and for them to accept whether or not they check that. But there would be no vacuum, Chair, between now and Monday. That is just only to, obviously, to allow us sufficient time. We think that September and October, because we are interviewing on the 9th, we think that that 2 months that we are proposing for the interim CE to act will be sufficient, especially if we get a person that doesn't have to serve the full calendar month notice where they currently are employed. But even if they were to be serving a notice in the normal course, we target the 1st of November as the start date for the new CE, hopefully a permanent one, and hopefully would stay for the duration. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Can you take us through the forensic investigation pertaining to the laptops, the investigation pertaining to flouting of human resources, maladministration, and zoom in for us with particular reference to the misuse of the credit card?
Chair, I'm going to allow Peter to speak first, and then if there's a need to chip in, I'll chip in. Please, CFO.
Sorry, Chair. Chairperson.
Well, Daniels?
Sorry to do this, Chair, and I have a reason why I'm doing this. Can you be so kind, Chairperson, and courteous, and maybe just remind this entity that they are under oath before they respond to this question? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. I must also inform the entity that we have, I think, 2 cases where people lied under oath. And we are busy with it. And please take note, we had a previous case also on a MasterCard that has been misused. Please proceed, CFO.
Thank you very much, Chair.
I hope that allegations of misuse of MasterCard wasn't in the shebeen.
No, Chair, it wasn't in a shebeen. So that process, Chair, was subjected through a disciplinary process. And after it had commenced, the former acting CEO resigned. And during the resignation process, therefore, then the process had to be halted. And what then was left for us is then for our legal team to assess the situation, to obviously assess whether, is there any other thing that we need to do in terms of, the actual recovery of the financial losses that might have been incurred. So obviously that process unfolds, and I think what the AG had done, Honourable Chair and members, is that they had identified that there was about 4,500 rand that was flagged as money that was used through the credit card to procure alcohol beverages. And what we have now done was...
What's the difference of spending money on alcohol beverages or in a shebeen? The other thing I would like to ask the entity on behalf of the committee, may I request that you open a case at the police? Doesn't matter, he's gone. You have to open a case at the police. Can you give us the undertaking that you will do such?
Thank you, Chair. We will do so, obviously subject through to our legal process that's going to advise us. But I think what we have done, Chair, what we are dealing with, the AG recommended that we recover that money. And we had since withheld that 4,500 from that monies that were due to the former acting CEO. But obviously that will be subject to another process, But I think noted, Chair, that we will need to pursue that matter.
Thanks, CFO. The laptops?
The laptops also, Chair, the forensic...
The laptops has become the lap dogs.
Yeah, Chair. So our assessment is that there had been security breaches and then the mandate of managing security and cameras falls within the landlord. So, and then the fact that this break-in took place, it means that there has been security breaches. So after the incident, Chair, what we have done was to engage with the landlord, and there has been a significant improvement, Chair, in the security arrangement, including in the server, in terms of beefing up the access control. So we were fortunate that the laptops were insured, and we were able to then to claim back the 240,000 that was lost. However, it was recovered. And I think what we have done... Sorry,
just another bite at the cherry, 2 bites. How much do you pay for rent?
It's 2.9 million per annum, Chair. And I think
They
what we
give
are
you
currently...
how much a month?
It's about 250,000 or so.
A month. So
A month,
It's
yes.
a 5-star office.
Yes, it's what is
But
recommended.
the problems that we have within NFVF, will you consider getting a place to pay less rent?
Yes, we are in that process, Chair. We have engaged the landlord in terms of reviewing that, but we have also done our own market analysis in terms of looking around the Houghton Parktown precinct in terms of getting paying a lesser amount. In fact, we have even engaged the department, Chair. We had a CFO forum yesterday where we had raised this matter. So we will engage DPW in terms of embarking on a process to identify a cheaper process. We are paying about 170 rand per square meter. So we want to chop it to about 120 or so that we can reduce our office bill, office rental.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think this can help there. Then also NFVF, there are allegations of bullying, or rather, don't know what is the right word to choose, pertaining to applications. Someone said that they have sent 17 applications and it's been rejected without any reasons. Can you respond to that? Who can respond? I think National Justice would have expected one respond to an organization who's applying for money. You see, I'm reading, ne?
Yes, Chair. So unfortunately, we do get a number of incidents where applicants will complain about being successively unsuccessful. We actually had an example where we were taken to task by an applicant who was just exhausted by the number of times they'd been rejected, and we undertook a process to actually train them to improve the quality of their applications. So it's one thing to ask for the reasons or get the notes. It's another thing to be fully immersed in a process which will give you an opportunity to improve the quality of your application. So it depends on the interventions that we have at the time, but it is something that we do struggle with and try and have different means of improving on that outcome. It is unfortunate because we may get 1,000 applications and only have enough budget to fund 35 or 40 of those 1,000 that we get.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give Honorable Khabo, Honorable Potgieter, Honorable Molotsani, Honorable Marlon, and then Honorable Mataung, and then Honorable... We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. They were looking for you. We're not here. TG?
Thank you, Chair. I was hoping you also allow us to respond to some of the questions that came from Honorable Member Mthethwa. Mr. Tanyane will speak to the issue of the national newspapers and the issue of the annual financial report. I wanted just to talk to the issue of the merger. Honorable Member Mthethwa, because there you are correct, because and I know you know this one very well, that this is informed by the revised white paper as culture and heritage, and the process over and above what you've mentioned, the process also in terms of the white paper, the revised white paper, was also looking at what efficiencies could be introduced, issues of governance, issues of shared services. And as a department, we did embark on the process. However, and you're using a correct word when you say it was stalled, because it hasn't been cancelled or abandoned as a process, but informed by that feasibility study that was done 2019, 2020, if I'm not mistaken, it predates me. And also informed by the process when we embarked on the when it came down to the actual process. I want to just cite an example. It might be an oversimplified example. Both of these entities, NAC and NFVF, would have CEOs, HR components, IT, etc. So while the white paper does identify some of the shared services, we had to be very clear in terms of, do we rely on attrition in terms of dealing with these positions on both sides, etc. And we recognize the fact that we needed to deal with the issue of legislation review of the two, because both of these entities, I'm not talking about the cultural institutions, etc. I want to just focus on NAC and NFVF. They've got their founding pieces of legislation, and in terms of going on an amalgamation, the department needed to have dealt with the legislation in terms of making sure that you have got a legislation in place that talks to that. So it has stalled, but it hasn't been abandoned. I think about 2 weeks ago, and I'm being very careful, Chair, because you said there are two people that are said to have lied. I'm hoping I'm not the second one amongst the two people, because I understand there's a police case. So I think, so that's why I'm being very choosy with the words that I'm using. So I just wanted to say, I think about 2 weeks ago, if I'm mistaken, we have had engagement also with Treasury. And where Treasury has assisted, they've done, which we didn't have, and we recognize that, they've done the actual cost breakdown analysis in terms of projected savings that we are looking at. I think one of the areas in terms of amalgamation, 25/7, is looking at about 79 million savings over the period, obviously. And the other one, which is National Heritage Council and SARA, is looking at about 100, according to the cost breakdown done by Treasury. So I think we are coming to the portfolio committee on the 19th, if I'm not mistaken, where we are going to be doing a full presentation. But I wanted just to touch on that because the honourable member had touched on it. If you allow us, Chair, we'll be very quick. If Mr. Tanyane can talk to the other two matters, please.
Thank you, Chair. The newspapers that were used is the Sowetan and the City Press, as they are published nationally. So those were the two that were used. And then in terms of the NFVF submitting financial report, yes, there are quarterly reports that are submitted to the department, which includes non-financial information as well. So all entities are required to submit those to the department. And annual reports are also submitted to the department for tabling in Parliament. Thank you.
So, just one more. Honourable Moletsane had come back. We wanted just to respond to the question that Honourable Moletsane had also asked the department. Of the first advert for the NFVF board, we got 180 applications or nominations, because it's a nomination by the public. And then out of the second, when the extension was done to the 10th of October, we got about 79. So it gives us the total of 259. Of the 180, the first advert, 5 made it to the board, to the 14, because initially it was 14 before the resignations. And then 5 plus what? 9 were coming from the second advert. Thanks, Chair.